Thanks for joining us.
Talkline Network Radio, America's longest-running Jewish broadcast network, the voice of the Jewish community.
Welcome to the podcast. You are now tuned in to this episode of our podcast. Today, we are going to interview some of the greatest and most influential minds in our field. And now, please welcome your host.
You're listening to Talkline with Zev Brenner, America's premier Jewish broadcast on the air since 1981.
And we're back. It's always great to connect with Mimi Rozmaryn in Israel, Director of Global Development, Mayor Panim Relief Centers. They do amazing work, and especially with the Hanukkah season. Their plates are literally full. But one of the things that we're going to be looking at, and unfortunately, there are only about 200,000 Holocaust survivors worldwide. That number, unfortunately, is dwindling each and every year. And over half of them live in Israel, and a lot of them live in poverty. So, Mimi, welcome back. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you. It's great. So I know we'll get into the Hanukkah season, and I want to talk up to you about the preoccupation with latkes versus donuts. So in Israel, I know Sufkiano is king in America. The potato latkes king. We'll talk about that a little later on and how that affects the work that you do, because Mayor Panim gives out food for Hanukkah as throughout the year. We'll talk about what the favorite is. But in the interim, I'm intrigued by the numbers, because Holocaust survivors are under attack worldwide. We had a situation in New York where a Holocaust survivor was not allowed to speak in a public school because he's pro-Israel. He wasn't speaking about Israel. He couldn't tell public school kids about his experiences because he deemed to pro-Israel. So there's an attack on Jews, including Holocaust survivors. They're a precious commodity. Tell me about them in Israel. How are they living, the numbers, what they're going through?
Sure. Well, as people might not know, there are more Holocaust survivors living in Israel than anywhere in the world put together. So about 50% of all Holocaust survivors are here in Israel. We have about 110,000 Holocaust survivors living in Israel. And unfortunately, they really are facing a challenging time in this last chapter in their lives. 1 in 3 of our Holocaust survivors here are living on or below the poverty line. 36% are reporting that they can't afford basic food given their fixed incomes and their pensions. And 41 report that they feel deeply alone. So Mayor Panim has a big mission, and we take it upon ourselves to help over 2,000 Holocaust survivors between our 5 locations each day.
Which is a lot. And you feed them regularly. How many meals do you feed a month to Holocaust survivors?
It's really an interesting question, because we see 2,000 Holocaust survivors on a regular basis. And so that's 240 meals a week, plus the meals we send them home with for Shabbat. But we do also, in addition to those that we feed and see each day, we run, in partnership with a few local organizations, Holocaust survivor daycare programs, where they come in, have a hot breakfast, have programming, social opportunities, sport, meet with therapists and other kinds of professionals, and then have a beautiful hot lunch and go home. And that is someone where we're serving about 100, 150 additional survivors through these more intensive day programs.
Now, it's not just feeding Holocaust survivors that's important. Sure, they have to have food to put on the table and food to eat, but a lot of them are lonely.
Yeah.
And some of them may not have mastered Hebrew because they came over. Some of them have, of course. Let's talk about the loneliness. What do you do? I know you have programs, and this is an issue which is not only going to affect Holocaust survivors, people coming back from the war. A lot of them are getting divorced, and they're going to PTSD syndrome. There are all kinds of issues and problems, which I know that you're dealing with. Let's first start with the Holocaust survivors, and let's also look at the other survivors of the worst Holocaust since, the worst killing of Jews since the Holocaust was the October 7th.
100%. And I would say one thing we have focused on since October 7th, of course, in our expanded mission, we've had a multiple list of people that really need extra help and support. As you alluded to, the PTSD, nearly half of our returning soldiers are facing PTSD issues. But Holocaust survivors have been particularly important to us for 2 reasons. First, the ones that are still alive, fled the Holocaust and lived through the Holocaust in really formative times in their life and their young adulthood. And now in their senior days are facing a re-trauma. So we see all of these feelings of anxiety and fear coming back into them at this time. And what we also saw is that with their limited mobility, it was an additional challenge to be able to get to safety during a time of all the sirens. In the Iran war last June, in just those 2 weeks, we lost 6 Holocaust survivors that couldn't get to their safe rooms in time.
Wow.
And so we really are taking extra care to help them feel less isolated, deliver meals to them at home at times where they feel like they can't safely be out and about, and do whatever we can to help give them some more social contact and feel like they're part of a family.
I was wondering, are there a lot of initiatives? I've seen some where they pair Holocaust survivors with those that have come back from the October 7th war, where they had their own stress, and especially some of the hostages that went through a horrible situation. Not as bad, of course, the Holocaust, but pretty terrible, no matter how you slice it. Any attempts to, let's say, to pair those two? Maybe they can both find solace with each other.
That is so beautiful. I hadn't seen anything or heard anything of that. And I think for some of our professionals in the social work field, I think that is an incredible initiative, especially since the high rates of PTSD that we're seeing amongst those that are returning back from war. And we know in general that kids are facing serious trauma. As was pointed out to me, I joke that this is the first time we've talked in 2 years where I don't feel like I might have to run to my safe room in mid-conversation.
Well, this is our first broadcast since the ceasefire went into effect.
Yes. So thank God we've been living in a new state of cautious optimism over the last 2 months. But now is the time where we're seeing both in children and seniors and really everyone, the P in the PTSD really start to emerge. So I think that's a beautiful initiative, and I'll absolutely bring it up at our next
I
staff
like
meeting.
the idea, because I saw someplace where they, even from past Israeli wars, and they pair them up with people from more recent war that had losses, and when they share their experience, they both feel better.
Mm-hmm.
Because it means it makes them feel they're not alone. That this, unfortunately, this is part of Jewish history, unfortunately.
Yeah, and that, there's a life ahead of you. I think that idea, and for our survivors to share some of the highlights and some of the things they've been able to experience in their adulthood and since coming to Israel, that's a beautiful initiative.
No, and I think it'll help both the Holocaust survivors and the people who've come back from the war, and those that are certainly the hostages when they've been released. That's been a big celebration in Israel. And this Hanukkah should be hopefully a very special one in Israel. So you're getting ready for Hanukkah. You're really giving out a lot of the goodies.
Yes. This is the best time of year to be in Israel. I say that to you sometimes, multiple times a year.
Well, Purim is also great. Yeah, and I always like to joke.
Great.
But Mimi, I always like to joke, we have so many Hammans in the world, only one Purim. We need more Purims. But we need more Hanukkah too. It sheds light. It's at the dark time of year, and it uplifts people's spirit. In Israel, you see everything, the menorahs and everybody, with the gift giving. It's 8 days, 8 days of gifts, right? In Israel?
It is 8 days of joy, truly. And I think at Meir Panim, we take it more seriously because it's our name. Our name, Meir Panim, means to brighten the face. And the idea and the concept of adding light to those that are facing challenging times, the people that come to our locations. We just, especially now more than ever, with the ceasefire intact and people starting to plan and dream big about life once again. To really infuse that spirit of joy into our branches. So decoratings has emerged. We've had Hanukkah decorations since Rosh Chodesh a couple of weeks ago, and we have plans for festive celebrations and food and gifts. We obviously specialize more in food than anything else. But we did, Zev, you would have loved it. Last week in our Jerusalem branch, we had a donation of blankets, scarves, and really sweet baby hand knit clothing from a women's group in England. They sent 40 kilos of knit goods, and we gave them out in our Jerusalem branch. And some of the senior citizens and the Holocaust survivors were picking up hats and sweaters for their great grandchildren.
Wow,
And
nice.
it was so meaningful because these are people that have never been able to give a gift to their relatives and their grandchildren and great grandchildren. And so just to see these acts of kindness go from community to community is just, it's a pleasure.
That was so nice, and you do such amazing work. We speak with Mimi Rozmaryn, Director of Global Development, Meir Panim Relief Centers. They're more than just soup kitchens. They help Holocaust survivors, returning Israeli soldiers, those that need food, but also emotional support and other kinds of support as well. Maybe just elaborate some of the other support that Meir Panim gives beyond food.
Sure. What's amazing about Meir Panim is since we've been in our community for 25 years, we started it as a soup kitchen, and now we've grown to so much more, as you say. And we see the meals really matter, and the meals are the core of what we do. But the longer you're a part of a community, the longer you understand the greater needs. So as we talk about winter coming, we have teams of volunteers that are helping our senior citizens winterize their homes. We're giving out blankets and scarves and coats and heaters. We're helping our communities. There was a man 2 weeks ago that lives near to our Dimona location that shared that he closes his front door each night with a bike lock because he didn't have a proper handle and lock on his door. And just that evening, our branch manager went to a hardware store, bought a doorknob, and installed it himself in his door. Because that's the type of work that our staff do, and that's the kind of things we see. We like to say that what our goal is to make people that have become invisible to society visible to us. And so our opportunities connecting people with resources, whether it be welfare or other groceries, anything we can do, we really try to be the one-stop shop for our patrons to get on their feet.
It's so important. Let's see if I'll get the number now. I'll give it at the end too, for people to learn more about Meir Panim and to get involved.
Sure. So the easiest way is potentially to call us at 1-877-7-DONATE. And you can also reach us online at meirpanim.org/donate.
Great numbers and great online site to go and help. They do such important work. But here's the question I've been waiting to ask you. And I know there's a big debate in America, as I said earlier, potato latkes is king during the Hanukkah holiday. In Israel, sufganiyot, the sweet jelly donuts are. What do you give? What do you provide, let's say, to the Holocaust survivors? Is their cuisine different that you give them than to the regular Israelis? Is it the latkes or the sufganiyot? Is the combination? Tell us.
I think that here in Israel, as you said, it's really all about the sufganiyot. Latkes, and they call them here levivot, as I've learned, are also, it's a thing that you make at home, but it doesn't feel like it's taken over the country the way that sufganiyot do. And what's really cool, in our Or Akiva branch, we have every day being made these Moroccan donuts. They're called spinach, and they're not filled, they're like whole donuts. And they're just covered in this delicious, beautiful, granulated and powdered sugar. So each branch does it their own way. In Jerusalem, we get beautiful sufganiyot from local bakeries that donate or help us, and we have partners that help do that for our patrons. But each branch does it in their own way. But definitely sufganiyot, donuts, sugar is where it's at around here.
So here's my question. I would assume that the majority of Holocaust survivors are used to potato latkes as opposed to donuts. Even though I haven't been in Israel all these years, I'm sure they've grown accustomed to it. Do you also specialize for Holocaust survivors in giving them latkes as well? Or that hasn't entered the conversation yet?
Definitely, they're getting fresh latkes prepared every day of Hanukkah in our centers. Of course, we care about their health and try to keep their diet as nutritious as possible. But I think the week of Hanukkah, this whole country is just throwing all the rules out the garbage because
Well, which
we're
is less
all
healthy, eating potato
indulgent.
latkes or donuts?
You know what? I really do think it's latkes because you feel like it's not as unhealthy, so you just like eat them all. When you then at the end of the day you
Isn't
realize
in the oil if you what kind of
it
oil you
is.
use? If you use
So
avocado
just
oil,
no
olive oil.
matter what, you know what? No matter what, you're eating fried food, tons of it. At the end of the day, what you ate was a bag of potato chips and a bag of fried sugar.
But it's the holiday, and of course we got to get into the holiday spirit. And nice that you're accommodating. The Moroccans get their delicacy,
Yes,
the Israelis get
yes,
those, the Holocaust survivors get the potato latkes. So
yes.
each one to their own, which is so nice. Israel's full of so many different countries and nationalities and customs, and it's good to have them all. So let's talk more Hanukkah, because Hanukkah, I know holiday time, Meir Panim is busy. I know
Mhm.
Pesach is extremely busy in the Jewish New Year's season, of course, but Hanukkah is also busy time
Mhm.
because people look to you and they say, you and me, Meir Panim, to help give them. They need an extra oomph. The holidays always cost more money, even though Hanukkah not as much as some of the other ones. So tell us about how you're gearing up for this particular holiday.
I love Hanukkah in Israel, as I said, is incredible. And it's just about fun and bringing joy. So a few things we do in our branches, they're all decorated, which is just such a delight. We have special foods being distributed, latkes, sufganiyas every day. We have music going, and we have packages like little, almost like what you get at Pekalofs on Simchas Torah. We have these like little packages with fun treats that we give out to all of the patrons that come in, so they have a little something extra to go home with. We're also now in the beginning of the winter season here in Israel, and so we're also distributing blankets and heaters and things that our patrons can really use and make use of in their homes as these seasons shift.
It sounds like, wonderful things, and it's a time of cheer. While we've been focusing on the Holocaust survivors, let's look at your challenge now. A lot of soldiers have come back from war. As we mentioned, they have PTSD syndrome. Well, some of them have also had other situations because of that, where they're now divorced, they're on their own, they have lost their businesses closed. So you have more people needing help now, even though that's been ongoing for 2 years. But now that they're back, I would assume that the problem is more acute. So let's look at that and what Meir Panim is doing to help them.
It's such a good question, because I think what a lot of people are assuming outside of Israel is like, okay, it's October 14th, the war is over, let's move on. Let's, and everything should be all shiny and bright now. And what we're seeing is the ripple effects and the very long-term challenges that we're now facing. We're seeing, as we've said a couple times, 50% of those that served in the war facing emotional distress. We see the cost of food gone up 10 to 15% over the last 2 years, and people with fixed income choosing between filling prescriptions and paying their rent. We see that there are businesses that have taken a hit, specifically people in the tourism industry, which is a tremendous industry here that just keeps getting hit and hit again. And so what Meir Panim is saying, and what we're doing is, just like we were there for the people that were in greatest need on October 7th, converting all of our locations into like supply centers, we're going to be here for the long term for the people that are facing emotional and financial challenges that are continuing on in this moment in the history of the country. And so for us, what that looks like is an increase in the number of people coming in each day for meals. It looks like the number of increased people that are asking for help with groceries, not just hot meals every day. And it means working in partnership with other nonprofits as much as we can to try to think holistically about the people we see coming in and helping them as a community and a team, because we see that there are so many people in need, especially in those Gaza envelope communities and in those communities in the north that are just starting to feel a little bit calm now.
Our guest is Miriam Rozmaryn, Director of Global Development, Mayor Putnam Relief Centers, and Hanukkah time they come alive. They were alive all year long, but Hanukkah time especially, so giving out more food, more packages. So you mentioned something, Mimi, that's very important. In the United States, the cost of food has gone up, and in Israel it has. So an organization such as yours, let's talk dollars and cents. If cost of food goes up and you're giving out more food, it means your expenses are skyrocketing.
100%.
How much?
100%. So we joke in the office that we're at a double-edged sword because more people are coming in because they can't afford food, and yet our food expenses are just as high as anyone else's. So we do see year per year, we're at a 15% higher cost of food. So much so, Zev, that over Rosh Hashanah time when we were placing our orders, massive orders of meat and major staples, the costs were so high that our CEO thought that our vendors were trying to swindle us.
Wow.
And went out and got all new quotes, which matched their quotes. So no one was trying to pull a fast one on us. But just, I think even for me, when I'm doing my own shopping for my family, I see the cost of food has gone up. We are the number 2 of all the OECD countries in the cost of food compared to the average salary. So we have some work to do in this country. And I think we as an organization are doing everything we can. And thank God, 80% of our funds are raised outside of Israel. And our amazing global community has allowed us to do the work we're doing each day.
So what numbers, how much money do you have to raise, let's say for Hanukkah or your long, let's get a perspective because your costs have gone up.
So an average meal at Mayor Putnam, I would say 2 years ago before the war cost about $6. And now we're really closer to $7.50 just for every meal that people come in, and the extras cost. But these are things we're really committed to doing, especially to bring some joy to the season. And so what we're doing is we're thinking more strategically about the foods we're preparing. When previously we might have served more beef, now we're serving more chicken and more fish. And we're still working with nutritionists to make sure that we're giving our patrons the best.
So
and
no
quality.
no lock, no stuff going out beyond Hanukkah.
No, that's it. It's an 8-day proposition, and after that, it's back to routine.
The nutritionists go home for that week.
They are not interested in what we're doing on Hanukkah.
but I'm trying to get a perspective of money. What number? It's millions of dollars that you're expending each year.
So we have about $100,000 additional each year. Each month, $100,000 based on where we were 2 years ago.
Wow. That's amazing numbers. Over $1 million extra for the same basic that you did 2 years ago, which is a shocking number.
We're seeing more people and we're seeing the cost of food increase. So that $100,000 each month, we see it.
So I know it's important for people to get involved and help. And I know that you rely on people in America and England and countries outside of Israel. But in America, the economy has not been so good. People have been cutting back. How has that affected you? The fact that people are struggling in the United States?
You know what? I think it's a blessing and a curse, honestly, because I think when our communities in the U.S. are facing economic hardship, and I saw, over November time when there was the government shutdown and SNAP benefits were shut down, food insecurity became something that people were talking about and really understanding. So when we talk about the challenges of making ends meet and the cost of food here, I think it might have seemed a little more vague and a little more unrealistic to people in the US. And so now when it's becoming such a hot topic, it's keeping the concept of food insecurity and hunger on people's minds. So I think they actually are more attuned to it. And those who can seem to be giving quite generously. Thank God they're able to continue doing so. But we definitely see overall the cost of living in both of our countries have gone up, not at all in line with the salaries or the minimum wage.
No, it makes it more challenging because you're being caught between both ends. In Israel, more people need your services.
Yeah.
It's less, and your cost of providing the same has gone up over $1 million a year. You can say, hey, Mr. American Jew, I need your help. And they're struggling too. So a lot of them are still rising to the challenge, but you have a more limited base that you can appeal to than you did 2 years ago when money was more flush. So you really ping pong from both ends.
We do, and I also I hesitate to point out that the exchange rate has been fluctuating also, which affects our bottom line, especially since 80% of our funds come from overseas. So I think the exchange rate over the last few days has been 3.2 shekels to dollar, whereas a couple of years ago it was closer to 3.5 and 3.6. So we are facing a lot of challenges at Meir Panim, and we're just focusing on doing what we can to help those that are in need, doing what the most we can with the least amount of money. We have a very, very lean staff here in Israel so that we can do so much. And we have 7,000 volunteers a year that come through our locations to really enable us to do the work we're doing. We have incredible volunteers that are doing their national service with us at 3 of our locations. So we feel really blessed.
You mean by that, when people need to do national service, that qualifies if they belong to Meir Panim.
Yes, I love talking about it, and I love them. So in Israel, once you turn 18, you're not looking at college brochures or gap year brochures. You're thinking about your country. Every young adult that is 18 needs to give back in some way or another, whether through military service or some kind of national service volunteer program. So at 3 of our Meir Panim branches, we have young adults that are doing their community service with us, and they're full staff people, but they don't cost anything for our budget. So that has been a boon for us in allowing us to get our work done with a minimal cost and keeping our budget as focused as much as we can on food and staples for our communities in need.
Terrific. I urge people to get involved. Let's give out the information for people to participate in the Hanukkah program, and you can give money all year long. They won't stop you. But Hanukkah,
we would be happy to.
But Hanukkah's on the table.
Hanukkah is what we're talking about now, and one thing that I really have loved hearing more about the U.S., especially as the cost of living and the cost of food in the U.S. has gone up, is that people thinking about one night of their Hanukkah giving as not just about giving material gifts, but making a donation to different charities to your friends and loved ones and your family. So I would say that's something that's particularly close to my heart. And if you feel compelled to skip one night of gifts, there's 8 nights. You can still have the latkes and sufganiyas, but if you would consider joining me and dedicating one night of Hanukkah to giving back, that would mean so much. And you can do so at 1-877-7-DONATE or meirpanim.org/donate.
Let's give out the number one more time.
1-877-7-DONATE and meirpanim.org/donate.
Mimi Rozmaryn doing a wonderful job. I love the idea we have to incorporate Israel into our Hanukkah celebration. And I know we've been pushing on the radio people to buy Israeli wines and Israeli olive oil for Hanukkah.
Yes.
But why not
that.
And UJ Federation has started this year, olive oil from Israel, and we have wines from Israel. But you know what? It's a great idea to give money to Israel, at least one night of Hanukkah, where you can help a family, a Holocaust survivor, somebody who's come back from the army, just somebody who needs food on their table. Yeah. So if you can donate one night at least, great idea.
Yeah, this is where the miracle happened. And I think one thing that really strikes me is that our community, our Jewish community in America, when you're davening, when you're praying, you're facing Jerusalem. And when you're praying for rain, you're not praying for rain in the Bronx, you're praying for rain here in Israel. So please, when you're considering giving this time of year, as we get to the end of the calendar year, we would love for you to think about giving here as well.
That's right. It's the end of the year coming up. And if you want to make a charitable contribution that will help you tax-wise, Meir Panim, 1-877-7-DONATE. Mimi Rozmaryn, Director of Global Development, Meir Panim Relief Centers. As always, thank you for being with us and sharing some insight. And thank you for the good work and the important work you're doing, saving lives and feeding the poor in Israel.
Thank you.
Thank you. There you have it. What's happening in Israel is certainly so important.
Thank you for tuning in to Talkline with Zev Brenner, America's premier Jewish broadcast, the pulse beat of the Jewish community.
For continuous Jewish programs, TalklineNetwork.com, or our 24-hour-a-day listen line at 641-741-0389. For past shows, you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube, Instagram, and all major podcast platforms, or jewishpodcast.org. Thanks for listening to the TalklineNetwork.com.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.